Equatorial People's Alliance, تحالف الشعب الاستوائي, EPA, would like to greet all of you, our people in Equatoria, our people in Greater Pibor Administrative Area, and our people in Western Bahar Ghazal, our people in Upper Nile, our people in Bahar Ghazal East. So I just wanted to share today a primer on land sovereignty from time immemorial. This has been prompted by recent debate in social media on the issue of land ownership. And I think this is a fundamental issue for all of us as stakeholders to provide our inputs, provide our views on how we understand and perceive of land ownership in South Sudan. So this presentation is titled Land Sovereignty from Time Immemorial. And my name is Hakim Dari. I'm the chair of Equatorial People's Alliance. So I appreciate following this argument, and hopefully we can make it more productive for a more constructive discussion and debate. Land sovereignty from time immemorial. In Sudan, we lived as an occupied country, and we were struggling against Arab colonization, forced into living together under their rule. That is why we fought to liberate ourselves from them and have our own state, our own country. However, we should also know that before the Arabs ruled us in Sudan and claimed all the territories in which we lived as belonging to Sudan, the Nuer, the Azandi, the Dinka, the Bari, the Cholo, the Didinga, the Tobosa, the Otuho, and all the 64 social groups and tribes that existed, they did so and existed in their ancestral lands for many generations. Those ancestral lands were occupied by them for time immemorial. The colonialists came and found them where they are and imposed on them their rule without their consent. Would you say that the Nuer, the Cholo, the Fertit, the Bari, the Fertit, the Bari, and the Mundari, and the Pojulu, and the Azandi, would you say that they did not have ancestral lands which are their territory before the Arabs and the British and the Turkish colonialists invaded them? They came, and I mean here the Turks, the Egyptians, the British, the Arab colonialists, they came with a new definition of land which served their extractive interests, ignoring the rights of the native people and pushed them off their lands. Examples are found and abound in Canada with the Eskimo population, the native populations of Canada. In Australia, the Aborigines, the native populations of Australia, and the Indians in the USA as the native populations of America, where the true local natives and owners of the land who were created by God and inhabited those territories as their lands before the Europeans came there, and now rendered powerless and exploited by the new settlers. Do we want to repeat this historical injustice in South Sudan by defining land ownership in terms of foreign concepts and not our own customary laws that existed for centuries and generations from time immemorial? Land ownership preceded the coming into existence of South Sudan as a state itself. The state cannot replace land ownership, take it wholly into its own at risk of dispossession of the natural owners of land in their respective territories, such as the Cholo land, Dinka land, Nuer land, Azande land, Bari land, and so on and so on and so forth. Every one of the 64 tribes or social groups have their own land in South Sudan, in their respective territories, which existed according to customary law long before the existence of South Sudan state, leave alone the existence of South Sudan for just 1 decade. Do you think, therefore, that these social groups would be happy to be dispossessed of their land and identity just because South Sudan has become a state? No, of course not. Even if South Sudan has become a state, it cannot dictate to the natives dispossession of their ancestral lands and territories. Otherwise, it would be tantamount to their complete loss of identity and possession of identity, because a social group would then have no land to live on, which is its own, maintain and preserve for its welfare and future generations. A government is supposed to be doing the right thing for the people, but not dispossessing people of their land and identity. A government that carries a mandate and the will of the people cannot be scheming to grab land, dispossess communities of their land at gunpoint. Everything has to be subject to the will of the people in the different social groups who own the land. Relevant regulation and relevant regulation, agreed legislation or regulation which preserves natural and civil rights of every of those communities, as well as the provisions for individuals seeking to build personal dwellings. We cannot therefore follow the model of Arab occupiers in the Sudan and bring that model to South Sudan with copy-paste mentality and blindly without the consent of the people affected by such policy. The first step is therefore, if we want to live together in a new modern state with our possessions of land and existence as communities, as we have always done from time immemorial to date, as distinct and diverse socio-political groups as found in Equatoria, in Upper Nile, in Bahr Ghazal, in Greater Pibor administrative area regions and territories, we go to the second model, to the second step in this process that we have established that we would like to have to live together in peaceful coexistence with each other. But before we do that, we go to the second step, which is the second step is to decide on our new ways of living together in a state, agree our new constitution on how we want to live together and how we govern ourselves and our diversity in this new modern way of such a thing as a state. What would be our best model of peaceful coexistence in this new modern state, which is somewhat also still seems to be alien to our traditional ways inherited from past generations? For example, all these distinct, diverse social groups lived as autonomous and self-governing social groups that are sovereign and not ruled by another neighboring tribe or social group. Dinka are not ruled by the Nuer in their traditional setting. Equatorians are not ruled by the Dinka in their traditional setting. Dinka are not ruled by Cholo in their traditional setting, and so on and so forth and so on for every distinct tribal or social group entity. So now, left alone by the Arabs, we have to find out the best formula for us and the new state so that we bring all these sovereign peoples into a shared sovereignty model of governance without destroying the social fabric of each community and their claim to possession of their ancestral land and existence on that land. Land can be leased to such a thing as the government. If it is seen, if it is the government is seen as a collective possession, we then look at the needs of the government itself and its institutions and consider if the government requires a leasehold or freehold land. If it is a leasehold, then we all contribute taxes to acquire or to enable the government to acquire leasehold for government premises and official residences which are not personally owned but publicly owned for various purposes, such as hospitals, houses for employees, government offices, etc., in different locations in the country, in Upper Nile, in Equatoria, in Bahr Ghazal territories. Such freehold, leasehold lands can be acquired from the different communities in their respective territories for and only in the public interest. Similar arrangements can be made and regulated by law for investment purposes, for company facilities, and for other premises. Individuals and citizens can also acquire leasehold or freehold lands for personal occupation or for investment purposes and other legitimate purposes which promote socio-economic development or for business purposes, education, agriculture, etc. This way, we can preserve natural native communities' sovereignty over their lands and existence today and for future generations, which promotes their welfare and development and will not leave them to become extinct and dispossessed, like what happened to the natives of Australia, the Aborigines, and the Eskimos in Canada, and the Indians in the United States of America. With these brothers and sisters, it's important that we take the right approach to the process of building a state that never existed in our history. And now we're trying to put something together as a state for preservation of the existence of these same social groups that have independently existed from each other, that have retained and maintained their sovereignty over their ancestral homelands and territories. So we cannot dispossess any of these communities of their possessions, of their identity. So we've got to think very carefully about how we progress on the agenda of peaceful coexistence in this country. The constitution that is made and driven by the people would embody the political will of the people that would preserve peaceful coexistence based on the principle of non-interference and destruction of any of these communities' social fabric by means of political and political decisions which do not promote the public interest. So I'll stop here. This is Hakim Dario on behalf of the Equatorial People's Alliance at the Halif al-Sha'b al-Istiwai, EPA. So I look forward to share with you more in our coming statements. Thank you. God bless you all.